So when I present, when I share any information that I'm guided to share, I channel, okay? I'm a vessel and I channel information. And so I'm going to allow myself to get in my channeling mood. I am going to transform into my infinite alter ego, so to speak. My alter ego is the Gypsy Empress, aka Nova. And so I'm going to put this on. I'm going to go into a quick breathing meditation and then we're going to get started, okay? So just bear with me. Hold on now. Bear with me. I'm going to open my legs and allow the energies to flow in, flow through, flow up, and flow out of me. The title of this piece is called Anxiety, Depression, and Suicidal Thoughts Are Symptoms of Suppressed Sexuality, Screaming to be Understood, Respected, and Integrated. Sacred Comprehensive Sexuality and Sensuality Education for Mental Health and Personal Development for her, she. So what I plan to do is read this article to you. You're going to see me looking down. It's because I'm looking at the article and sharing it with you. Let's go. On March 2nd, 2021, I wrote an article which later evolved into a YouTube video that turned out to be the most popular piece of content I had ever shared publicly. My article was titled, "What Else Can You Do with Your Stored Sensual and Sexual Energy Other Than Pour It Out on Tyrone?" The only video on my YouTube channel that received over 11,000 views and comments from people all over the world, just like that. So here's the thing. The majority of the views and comments my video received came from folks who are die-hard abstinence and celibacy advocates. So much so that many commented on how long they've gone without sexual intercourse, some 10 years plus, and how they plan to continue until marriage and starting a family. But this was not what I suggested in my article or video at all. It was obvious that many took to the celibacy part, but completely ignored the "what else can you do with it" component. In the full cast and article, I explore the practice of abstinence and or celibacy and cycles, meaning there will be times when you will choose to and times when you will not. Not because you're waiting for someone to marry you, but because in the moment, however long that moment lasts, you are doing something else with your sexual energy other than just hold on to it and other than just pour it out on Tyrone. No offense to the Tyrones of the world. I emphasized that when you do decide to participate in sexual connections again, it won't be because you've met the one, but because you first become one with yourself. Maybe I should have titled it, "Sometimes You Feel Like a Nut, Sometimes You Don't." But I digress. The thing is, if she's waiting and being taught to wait until marriage before she decides to become one with herself, then herein lies the problem. What if she decides a traditional form of marriage and having children isn't what she feels guided to do? Does this mean she's cut off from ever enjoying pleasure and having mental and physical well-being? It became even more clear to me that so many women and girls, those born with uteruses, when I say girls, when I say women, I mean those of us born with uteruses, okay? Don't come for me, are miseducated in the dark on the truth about our sexual and sensual selves. This misguided and misinformed cycle has perpetuated itself lifetime after lifetime in the minds and bodies of the majority of the human species, even more so for children and young adults. And guess what else continues to perpetuate itself in the majority of the human race, especially children? I'll wait. You guess yet? I know you probably guessed it. That's right. Anxiety, depression, and suicidal thoughts or ideation. Now, are you seeing the pattern and connecting the dots yet? I hope you are, because this goes even deeper. Dr. David Lay, in contextualizing sex and mental health, in his presentation, he quoted Wilhelm Reich, who was an Austrian analyst who happened to study under Freud. I quote, "The mass psychology of fascism. Suppression of the natural sexuality in the child, particularly of its genital sexuality, makes the child apprehensive, shy, obedient, afraid of authority, good, and adjusted in the authoritarian sense. It paralyzes the rebellious forces because any rebellion is laden with anxiety. It produces, by inhibiting sexual curiosity and sexual thinking in the child, a general inhibition of thinking and of critical faculties." So based on my extensive research in comprehensive sexuality education, and due to my personal life's odyssey, I began to summate that these disorders are somehow in direct correlation or indirectly correlated to the lack of knowledge about sexual health and the role it plays in our minds and in our bodies. Allow me to break it down for you. Suicidal thoughts, anxiety, and depression show up strongly and will increase over time for those who have not been educated on sexuality and sensuality outside of getting married, having intercourse, penetration, and outside of childbearing. Why? Because when she becomes aroused down there, and oh, she won't know what to do with it or herself. Unfortunately, there's no one around her to help inform and guide her on the ancient power between her legs. Ooh, I'm currently thinking about this song by a singer, Jill Scott. If you don't know who Jill Scott is, baby, where have you been? She has this song called Rolling Hills. She says, "Maybe you don't recognize what you got between your thighs. Come on. You're a prized possession. Not everybody's worthy. Only reason I know is because I headed down that same road." Okay, I'm done. This is why many young women and girls struggle with her mental health, emotional well-being, personal development, because she doesn't truly know what this energy is. As it begins to rise in her body, who is around to tell her what it is and how to cultivate it in more ways than one? Can you imagine carrying a formidable power day in and day out, not knowing what to do with it other than keep a lid on it until marrying someone, until death do you part? This is what every living woman and girl has been taught since coming into the world. I call it the makings of a mental and emotional overload waiting to happen, aka disorder in the mind and in the body. Consider this. Girls begin to feel the onset of her sexual and sensual self as young as 10 years old, depending on when she approaches or begins menstruating. This may also be the reason why pedophiles or hebephiliacs believe she's ripe for the picking. Hence, the non-consensual and heinous acts or experiences of the following. Number 1, rape and molestation. 2, FGM, female genitalia mutilation in all of its forms, cutting, burning, stitching, and more. Number 3, child marriage. Number 4, sex trafficking. 5, forced prostitution. Number 6, unintended pregnancy. And number 7, STDs or STIs. Do you realize that all 7 factors mentioned involve the misuse, abuse, stealing, suppression, and control of sexual and reproductive power? One of the philosophical questions I pose and explain in my first published book titled Activate: Unorthodox Philosophies that Explore Anxiety, Depression, and Suicidal Thoughts as Symptoms of Suppressed Superpower is this: what makes our feminine power, i.e. sexuality and sensuality, so valuable that throughout centuries schemes have been created to usurp it, steal it, sell it, buy it, and seek to control it? But I digress for now. She's at an age when these powerful emotions begin to bubble underneath the surface. But there's no one around to teach her exactly what these emotions and foreign-like urges are, what they truly mean outside of the indoctrinated ideologies. At this age, she may begin to secretly explore erotic play within her friend groups, within her same-sex friend groups, and or with stuffed animals, teddy bears, pillows. True. Why? Because there's something knocking at the doors within, below, down there, that seems to invade her body and her mind. If more children grew up having a clear understanding of their bodies and how they work, and were able to promote positive sexuality information, this field would have less to overcome. Maddie Sheffer, from Sex Therapy, reviewing the issues within the field. According to the Harvey Institute, there are 6 principles of sexual health. Number 1, consent. Number 2, non-exploitative. 3, honesty. 4, shared values. 5, protection from STI, HIV, unwanted pregnancy. And number 6, pleasure. Instead of educating her on ways in which she can integrate and understand her sexual self in her day-to-day life, notwithstanding penetration or intercourse, she is taught to vilify it, shun it, hide it, and even put on a promise ring that makes her vow to never uncover it until she's married. This notion does one thing only: teach her that the only power her body is worth is if a man or other, them, they, finds value in it first. And we wonder why she's angry. We wonder why she contemplates suicide. We wonder why she's anxious and depressed. We wonder why she's confused about herself, about who she is. Not only who she is, but what she is and what she possesses. And we wonder why she lacks confidence. The current World Health Organization, WHO, considers sexual health as one of the 4 pillars of health: physical, mental, spiritual, and sexual well-being. Yet, we have failed. We have failed at equipping our future generations with the emotional intelligence they need to lead themselves in the new world that isn't coming, but that is here. We have failed at providing them the truth about who and what they really are outside of so-called traditions, practices, and beliefs. And we wonder why so many consider taking their own lives. Now, don't get me wrong. This does not mean that we lead our young ones into a lifestyle of spread eagle, okay? If you're listening to what I'm telling you so far, then you already know this is not that type of conversation. This means that it is time to educate her about her down there world, rather than teaching her to wait for someone else to come along and stake claims to her body before she ever gets the chance to do it herself. It's time to help her, in my Beyonce voice, get information. Okay, ladies, now let's get information. Hey, okay, ladies, now let's get information. Hey, Slade, or you get eliminated. I digress. But it's time to help her get information about her sexuality and about her sensuality that cuts through the BS and gets right to the root, i.e., root chakra seed of her existence. If not, we will continue to perpetuate generational psychological curses on girls that become women who won't understand what to do with their sexual and sensual selves, or even herself overall, outside of being claimed, outside of being bought, sold, or taken. What society has done so far is teach her to always wait to be chosen, as opposed to her knowing that she also has the power to choose. The power to choose when, where, how, and most importantly, the power to choose her own reason why.